Hi guys, my name's Saffy Sprocket and welcome back to another episode of Saffy Sprocket. Now, I have a fantastic treat in store for you guys. You get to watch me cringe at an old video. I'm not looking forward to this. So the reason we're taking a trip down memory lane is that I recently got asked an absolutely fantastic question in my comment section the other week, which is basically, how have my motorcycle touring packing habits changed over the last 12 months? Now, a year ago today, I made a video talking about what I was packing for my motorcycle trips. And obviously my habits have changed a considerable amount in the last 12 months. So today I'm going to be running through what I used to pack, what I pack now, what's changed, and basically why. So let's jump straight in. But first, you may have noticed that things have changed a little tiny bit. Just wanted to say a major thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, and I want you guys to know that I do reinvest every single penny of your support back into the channel. One of the projects that I've been working on for the last 2-3 months is building this YouTube space in my apartment so that I do feel more comfortable vlogging, so that I can put out more content more frequently. But yeah, it's really important for me to let you guys know that, it's not wasted money. I always try to, put it in the best use possible to make sure that, the quality of my videos is continuing to increase so that you guys know that basically I'm not taking the mick. So thanks a lot for your support. This feels really cool. I'm really excited. I almost feel like a real YouTuber. Almost, not quite. Imposter syndrome has a tight hold of me, but there we go. So jumping back to the video. Now, if you ever want to know what not to pack for a motorcycle trip, it would definitely be the video that I posted last year. I cringed watching this, and all the way through I'm just like, oh god. Like, it deserves so much criticism. I deserve to be bullied for this video. But I don't regret it, not one single bit, because the journey from 12 months ago to where I am now has been a lot of fun. Jumping straight in, let's talk about the luggage that I used to use for my motorcycle. So I used to use soft luggage. Originally I had a Ventura top box, and I had 2 soft side panniers that I purchased from AliExpress and may or may not have duct taped them to my bike because they didn't fit very well. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so owning soft luggage isn't inherently a bad thing. Duct taping it to your bike, maybe, but owning it, not so much. And at the time, I was working with the budget that I had. I wanted to tour. I couldn't really afford hard luggage. I was like super skint. So, I did go for the cheapest option that would allow me to get on the road. But when you live in a country that is predominantly famous for its rainfall, soft luggage is great if you remember to shrink wrap every single one of your possessions twice. Not just once, twice, because whatever you put in soft luggage, when the rain hits it, will get wet. It's just how it is. If you live in a country like Australia, it's like super sunny all the time, it wouldn't be any issues. But I live in England and I really missed having dry socks. So obviously the soft luggage did not stay on my motorcycle. So 12 months later, I've now completely swapped the soft luggage out and I have hard luggage by Shad. I have 2 side panniers and a top box, and they're completely waterproof. I also still get the fantastic benefit of being able to carry the inside bags around, just like my soft luggage. But one of the most amazing benefits is the fact that it's lockable, whereas my soft luggage wasn't. It was also quick release. So I always was running the risk of just having all of my possessions completely stolen from me in like 5 seconds if I didn't keep an eye on my bike. So upgrading to the hard luggage that I have just made a lot of sense. So on to possession number 2. I used to carry a hard shell motorcycle rucksack with me wherever I went on my motorcycle trips. However, I did start to notice every time I would pull up at a hotel, I was in pain. I was in so much pain. I used to put all of my camera gear in this rucksack so that when I would get off the bike, I would just open it and I would begin to film with it, and I'd put it back in my bag, I'd throw the bag on my back, and then I would go off again. And I was in so much pain. Like, do not tour with a rucksack. You don't need it, don't do it. It's awful. You will suffer, it's completely unnecessary. Just don't bother. So on to item number 3, which is my side leg bag. Now this is the only piece of original luggage that I'm using 12 months on. It was one of those gem items that I picked up from China for £6 and it's still going strong 12 months later. Now the Velcro on it is starting to disintegrate a little bit, but obviously it's in a lot of harsh weather in winter, so you know, fair play to it. I do intend to buy another one very shortly because I just love it so much. All the pockets are like the perfect size. So moving on to camping equipment, last year I used to pack my Lone Rider Moto tent. I still pack it now, it's still a fantastic tent. I'm not going to get into the specifics of why I carry a giant tent around because I've done a full video on this, but I'm still continuing to use the same tent 12 months on and I have no intention of swapping it out. So the next thing I just want to quickly touch on is my Andy straps. I used to carry a pair of Andy straps to secure my tent to my bike. Now I carry 2 pairs because these things are amazing. I was really hesitant at first because they're like giant Velcro straps and I'm like, Velcro on a bike, is it safe? These things are indestructible. Like you could literally throw it around a tree, Velcro it up and use it as a swing. Like I love them. So I always carry two pairs now, one to strap my tent to the bike and then I'll wrap the second pair around the tent. But then if I ever need a pair of straps for an emergency, I always have them there on the bike. It's also really super useful if, like, for example, you want to throw a coat on the back of your bike for when you arrive at your destination, you don't want to be digging it around, you know, out of your luggage, you can just quickly tuck it under the straps. Obviously 12 months ago, I was riding around in a bright red Wise textile suit, and now 12 months later, I have the LS2 Nevada suit. Both of them are textile suits. There was nothing wrong with my previous suit, it's just that, you know, with me doing so many miles, I wanted something particularly thicker, especially when it came to winter, and the Nevada suit had multiple layers to it, just to try and help keep me warm. I do occasionally still use both suits interchangeably, but I do have a preference for my LS2 suit, just because I've become quite accustomed to using it, and I really like how warm it is, So on to my shoes. 12 months ago, I was wearing my Duccini boots. I absolutely love these boots. A little too much, but they were just super comfortable. Unfortunately, I completely obliterated them, using them as a mallet to hammer in my motorcycle tent pegs in the ground. I was just there hammering them away, and unfortunately one of the metal pegs went through the shoe, and double unfortunately it was while I was wearing them, so it was very painful. I don't know if that's a lesson for shoe shopping or stomping sharp bits of metal in the ground with your feet, but you know, who's to say? Who's to say? Anyway, when it did come to motorcycle shopping for a new pair of boots, I ended up with the Oxford Trackers. I wanted something a little bit more drier for winter. With my Duccinis, it was very much the case that my pants would tuck into my boots because I just have giant man feet. But the Oxford boots that I'm using at the moment, my LS2 pants do fit over them. So, you know, I have noticed a massive increase in my feet staying dry, especially through winter, which was very well needed. So 2 items of motorcycle clothing that I now carry around, which I didn't carry around 12 months, is my Gerbing heated jacket and also heated gloves. They plug straight into my bike. I was using them all over winter. They were an absolute godsend. There was absolutely no way that I'd be able to tour in winter without them. But I also actually still carry them in summer, just because if you're riding around at nighttime or if you're riding in the rain, being physically warm dries your clothing off, and also, you know, it just helps your concentration level. Also, I'm the kind of maniac that rides around with her heated grips on in summer, so... So when it comes to packing tech for the road, I have massively reduced what I take. So I no longer take excess batteries, I don't pack a gimbal anymore, I stopped bringing a large mic. I basically condensed it down to one tiny bag. And the only thing that I really bring now is my SLR, a wireless mic, 2 batteries, a battery charger. I take 2 external batteries for my phone, and I'll also take my drone. That's it. I used to carry so much unnecessary tech. I used to have like several tiny action cameras, which were just a complete waste of space. I never used them. So my new general rule of thumb is that if I don't need to use it every single day on my trip, it stays at home. So another item that I dropped this year is my physical map. I used to carry it around all the time because quite often my mobile phone wouldn't have internet. And then recently someone in the comment section about 3-4 months ago said, "Hey Saf, do you know that you can go into Google Maps and you can press the offline button and it will save all of the maps in a certain geographic area?" To which I was just like, I'm an idiot. I don't know how I worked in tech and didn't know about offline Google Maps. But you know what? We all have our weaknesses, so... Okay, so onto the camping equipment. Now, 12 months ago, I used to use 2 sleeping bags. I had a micro sleeping bag and I also had a summer sleeping bag. I'd put the micro sleeping bag in the summer sleeping bag and then I would sleep in it. Now, I know what you're thinking, why did you carry 2 sleeping bags? Well, I was broke and they were gifted to me. So that's what I used. And I continued to use those all throughout summer until it got to autumn. And then I really started to suffer. Because my sleeping bags were obviously secondhand and they were really rubbish, I also carried a hot water bottle around with me because it was just horrible, to be honest with you. It was very cold. The hot water bottle was very necessary. But you know what, I don't regret it because it enabled me to travel. So yeah, as soon as I could afford to upgrade my sleeping bag, I went ahead and did that straight away. And it's just helped cut back on a lot of the space as well, just having 1 sleeping bag. So onto my cooking equipment, I still carry my fast boil and I still carry my mesh tin. I do need to buy a new mesh tin at the moment because I may have set fire to my other one, but that's not important, right? I obviously just carry around the 1 spoon now, and I massively reduce the amount of food that I carry at any one time. Whenever I used to go touring before, I'd carry like 2-3 days of food. You really don't need this at all. Maximum you need like 24 hours of food and a couple of coffees. That's it. So if you're wondering about what kind of food I pack for 24 hours, the answer is super simple. I basically grab a surplus military ration pack and throw it in the bag. They are amazing. There was one particular instance in the Isle of Skye when I was so exhausted after riding all day, and I went to cook my food with my fast boil and my gas canister had completely run out. It was done for. And the idea of like traipsing to the shops honestly sounded just like I did not want to do it. I was tired, I wanted to rest. So having these military ration packs just on hand for situations like that to kind of preserve your energy and, you know, prevent you from putting yourself in dangerous situations. So something that I am now also taking with me on my trips, but only when I'm wild camping. If I'm staying at a campsite, I probably won't bother, but it's basically a life straw. When I was up in the Highlands, I ran out of water because I completely used it on all of my coffee, absolutely no regrets. But it meant that I was very thirsty whenever I stopped anywhere. Obviously in the Highlands, there's a lot of clean drinking water spaces around. But also I don't want to run the risk of getting water poisoning or drinking any kind of like microorganisms that might make me sick. So I do have a life straw that's currently en route to my house, which will be there simply for wild camping. So if it's the case that I go back to the Highlands, it will be coming with me. But if I'm planning to stay in a campsite, obviously I have access to clean, fresh drinking water there, so it probably won't be the case that I don't take it with me. So the other 2 items which I have started packing with me is a shovel and biodegradable toilet paper. If you do intend to go outside and you do need toilet paper, make sure you use biodegradable stuff, otherwise you will need to bag it up and take it with you because regular toilet paper does not break down fast enough. Obviously these are items that I only take when I'm wild camping. If I'm booked into a campsite, I will not take them with me because if I don't have to poop in the woods, I ain't gonna poop in the woods. So yeah. And then obviously hand gel because pooping in the forest. I did used to take a handheld torch with me camping. I stopped taking it just because whenever I did need a torch, I would instantly reach for my phone and turn my phone torch on instead of actually using a torch. But I did recently acquire this for wild camping for the same reason that I take the toilet paper, for pooping in the forest. So in terms of hygiene on the road, I no longer carry toiletries. Basically what I use instead are these Travel Buddy biodegradable wipes, and they're completely plastic free, so they're not bad for the environment either. All I'll do is, however many days I'm going to be traveling for, I'll take that many wipes out, plus 2, and then put them in a sandwich bag. I've never run out on the road, but they're just really good for saving space because, you know, a couple of wipes in a sandwich bag takes up a lot less space than like a bottle of like shampoo, conditioner, all that kind of jazz. Obviously, it's probably more hygienic to jump in a shower and clean with soap, but when you're wild camping, that isn't obviously an option. It's not always the case that you're camping by a lake, so these are a really good alternative that don't take up any space. Something that I do want to touch base on is that last year I used to travel around with these teeny tiny waterproof bags. The bags are waterproof, but the zips were not, so they were completely useless. And something that I now use this year is giant Ziploc sandwich bags. You get like 20 of them for £2. You want like the big freezer bags. And the massive benefit about this is, number one, they're cheap. Number two, you get a lot of them for your money. Number three, you don't have to worry if they break. They're waterproof as well, and you know what? The biggest benefit to these is the fact that you can see straight through them. So that when you are packing and unpacking your motorcycle at the end of the day, being able to immediately see what's in every single bag will save you so much time on the road. So yeah, I don't use these silly waterproof travel bags anymore. I just use sandwich bags. It's just faster and it's cheaper and it's cut back on so much stress. So other things that I've started carrying with me from here on in, obviously if you've seen my Scotland trip, you'll know that I got really badly burnt. So now I always carry a burn gel situation thing, because that was just a really bad experience that I do not want to repeat. I obviously carry a pocket knife just because, you know, you never know when you need one of those, and obviously I carry a lighter in case I need to, I don't know, set fire to something, someone. Who's to say? Another thing that I've started carrying with me is a mallet, again, because I broke my shoes, so I now take a mallet. It's also good for, you know, hammering stuff. Heat pads, these are amazing if you get caught out in the rain and you don't have heated gear. Just, you know, stick them on every limb imaginable, and also if you are female and you do unfortunately get hit with your period while on the road, these are amazing. So, and then on top of that, I will also carry ibuprofen and paracetamol, again for the same reason I carry the heat pads. If you're riding long hours in the cold, you will be very, very sore. I always like to preload ibuprofen the night before so you don't wake up feeling like I've been hit by a bus. So I also just want to touch on clothing. When I originally started motorcycle touring, I used to pack the equivalent of 2 panniers worth of clothes. I packed so many clothes that by the time I'd get back from traveling, I would have clothes that I hadn't even worn. Now when I go traveling, I only pack like 2-3 days worth of clothing. Especially if you're staying on a campsite, you can wash stuff. It's not difficult to clean it. My go-to clothing for the road has basically just become merino wool base layers and also turtlenecks. I often pick dark colours to not show up the dirt, and I'll just try and wash them when I can. The only thing that I do carry excess still of is just socks. You can have enough socks, but you can never have enough dry socks. So I always pack more socks than I ever intend to need. I also just want to touch on the type of socks that I did swap out. It used to be the case that I take like a couple of layers of cotton socks. When cotton gets wet, it takes forever to dry. Like it just, hours and hours. You'd be lucky if it's dry the next day, if it's poor weather. So I recently did swap out the type of socks that I was wearing, and now I do wear wool socks on the road, just because when you do pull up, they do dry a lot quicker if you're caught out in bad weather. So the only type of clothing I will take on the road with me now is basically base layers, because not only do they serve as like a functional set of clothing when you're out of your bike gear, like you can quite comfortably walk around in like base layer trousers and also base layer tops, but they also stop your gross sweat getting on your bike clothes. So it does stop your bike clothes getting stinky a lot quicker as well. Also, it's really easy to wash base layers, especially if it's sunny. You can just rinse them out in any lake and kind of, you know, peg them to dry up on your tent, and within a few hours they will be completely dry. So yeah, basically I stopped carrying loads of excess clothing and I just invested in a couple of pairs of like decent base layers, wool socks, also some wool gloves and a hat. And then that's it. I'll literally just carry like 2 sets of base layers, 4 or 5 sets of, you know, wool socks, 1 pair of gloves, 1 hat, and then a couple of pairs of underwear and 2 bras. That's all I'll take with me now. I don't bother taking anything else. 12 months time, I'll probably reflect on this video and equally be like, oh my God, what was I doing? Why did I think that was a good idea? But you know what? It's all fun. It's all part of the learning process. So, oh well. there we have it. That's basically how my motorcycle touring gear has evolved over the last 12 months. And I am most certain that in 12 months' time, when I do eventually do another update, the video of what I'm packing is drastically different from what I pack today, mainly because I know for a fact that in 6 months' time, the type of motorcycle touring I'm going to be doing is going to be drastically different to what I'm doing today. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, and I will reveal the details at a later date. So exciting. In the meantime, if you do want to see more great bike content, don't forget to hit subscribe, because I do release a new video every single Sunday at 6 p.m. In the meantime, my name is Saffy Sprocket. Ride safe, stay crazy, and I'll see you next week.